everybody. I'm Penn. I'm so excited to be here today performing on Artslandia Happy Hour. I have a hopefully really fun program lined up for you today. The idea behind this collection of songs is that they are art songs in the sense that they are songs about art. So it's a little bit of a silly mom pun, but I did this recital a number of years ago, and I was able to project the visual art, which today is unfortunately not possible because broadcasting from my music room. Welcome to my music room. But the links to the online scanned version of these books and the accompanying artwork should be in the description of the live stream today. So don't leave the live stream to go look at them. But if you have two devices, if you want to pull it up, you can. They're really, really beautiful images, and it adds so much to the music. So I would say at the very least, maybe go check those out afterwards. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the pieces because in addition to being a working professional singer, I am a college professor and a passionate educator, and I really love talking about music almost as much as I love singing it. So forgive me, I'll try not to talk your leg off. I promise there will be singing and playing. But I did want to talk to you a little bit about the history of some of these pieces and see if I can kind of get you aware of the aesthetic environment in which they were created so that maybe you can enjoy them a little bit more fully. So I'm definitely going to perform for you today two different settings of the Bestiary. In French, that means the Bestiary. And a bestiary is a literary form that has been around since the Middle Ages. Medieval bestiaries used to be a collection of images and poems about animals. And the idea was that there was this book of nature, as it's called. We're in my house, and there's going to be a lot of noise right now because my dog is barking, but it will stop in 30 seconds. I can't really do anything about that. Hey, welcome to live broadcasting. So the idea was that people could read what was called the Book of Nature and draw morals, Christian morals, out of the behavior of animals. So fast forward many hundred years later, and there's a French poet called Apollinaire, who also happens to be a collector of books, and he loved medieval bestiaries. He was not devoutly religious, he was kind of tangentially religious, and so he had this idea to recreate the medieval bestiary in the framework of the Orphic myth. Guys, you need to be quiet and you need to go, okay? Sorry. Real life, that's my kids. And so he wrote 30 short poems. 4 of them are about Orpheus himself and his supposed magical abilities to charm animals and to create music that would strongly move people. And the rest of them are about animals. Some of these songs were set by Francis Poulenc, who's a very famous composer. You almost definitely have heard of him if you like classical music. But he only set 6 of them. And the rest of them, except for the Orphic poems, the rest of them were set by a friend of Poulenc called Duret. And Duret was one of the members of Les Six, a famous group of 6 French composers living around the turn of the last century. I had to look up the dates because I kind of wondered if there was some friendly rivalry going on here. Like, why would you set the poems that your friend had already set? Poulenc's came first. I think he only set these 6 because they were just the ones that really spoke to him. And then Duret's came later. I'm not going to do all of Duret's for you because it's just too much music. It's such a long set. But if you like them, I really strongly recommend that you go listen to the rest of them. They're beautiful, and I don't know why they don't get done more often. But the part of the ones that I'm not going to do from the Duret are the ones that Poulenc already set. And at first I thought, oh, that'll be interesting. I'll do both versions so you can compare. But I love these Duret songs, but none of the ones that he and Poulenc sets, if they both set them, Poulenc always wins in my mind. Maybe it was just that Poulenc did such a good job that Duret didn't have any new and different ideas. I'm not really sure, but we're just going to do the Poulenc ones. And if you're curious about the other ones, you can go look at them. So this book was published. Maybe I can at least just lift this up one time and show you a couple of these. Each one of these songs has a beautiful poems. Each one of these poems has a huge and beautiful woodcut that goes with it. And then a very short poem. Usually they're only 4 or 5 lines long. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to read each of the poems in English for you so that you know what it's about, so that you don't have to read any translations anywhere. And then I'll play it and we'll talk through it. So the first one is called The Dromedary, or The Camel. And it says, with his 4 dromedaries, Don Pedro de Alfaguera roamed the world, and he liked it. He did exactly what I would do if I had 4 camels. So this is The Dromedary, The Camel by Francis Poulenc. So fun and so full of character. Okay, they're really meant to go straight through, which I would normally do, but I don't want to do that now because I want you to know what the poems are about. And I think if I read 6 poems to you in a row, you will forget. Okay, so the next one is called The Tibetan Goat. And it says, the fleece of this goat, and even the golden one that Jason labored for, are worth nothing when compared to the hair of she whom I love. So if you know your mythology, you know the story of Jason and the golden fleece, and that's what's being referenced here. So. And now the grasshopper, and you might think there could be nothing poetic written about grasshoppers, but you'd be wrong. Here's the little grasshopper, the nourishment of John the Baptist. May my poetry be like the grasshopper, food for all the best people. Voici la ville sauterelle, la nourriture de Saint-Jean. Oui, sommeil, c'est trop comme elle, régal des meilleurs jours. It's so short, right? The dolphin. Dolphins, you play in the sea, but the waves are always bitter. My joy breaks through at times, but life is hard as ever. This one is really fun to play, but also hard, so. okay. But the thing that I always stress about on that one is trying to say parfois ma joie. Parfois ma joie is a really excellent French tongue twister. Okay, and the next one is called l'écrevisse, which means the crayfish or the crab, depending on how you want to translate it. And I think this is one of the most evocative songs. You know what? I'm going to take just a second and see if I can get on here to, because I'm supposed to be reading your comments. And maybe you're commenting, which would just be so lovely. See if I can do two things at once. I should be able to do things at once. One of the things that's so wonderful about these animal songs is that Poulenc never takes the easy way out. There are a lot of ways that you could describe an animal that would be really literal, you know, like a fly, right? And he doesn't do stuff like that. Instead, he finds the kind of musical character of the animal, and he creates some kind of musical gesture that describes that. And this one, I think, is absolutely the best because if you imagine the motion of the crab where it's kind of scurrying across the ground, there's a little scurrying in this. And also this poem is mostly about indecision, and he does this beautiful thing where he never lets us know what key we're in. It's just completely obscure. So I should read this for you. So crayfish. Uncertainty, oh my delight. You and I, we get around just like crabs do, always backwards, backwards. Here we go. Let me start that again. Now this one is my favorite, and I have to say I've been singing this one a really, really long time. And one of the things that the few things that I think gets really better as you are, as you get older as a musician, is you're a bit more patient. And this one is so slow. It says très triste, très lent, which means very sad and very slow. And when I did this when I was younger, I had such a hard time staying slow enough to actually play the darn thing, and I had to do it with a metronome over and over because I just couldn't make myself slow it down. But now I really love it. So this one is called The Carp, and oh, I don't have my translation. No, that's all right. I know what this one means. So the poem for this one says, "There where you live in your tranquil pools, O carp, how long you live! Is it perhaps that death forgot about you, melancholy fish?" And so again, it would be really easy to do something kind of cheap where you just have the sound of the water, but what he's done instead is create this kind of eternal ringing chord that never goes anywhere. So this dinging E flat that just goes the whole way. And then there are only two chords. I promise you, it's the most interesting song ever composed with only two chords. So I hope you love this one as much as I do. It's so evocative. also the first time in that whole cycle that we actually cadence on a chord with no dissonance. It's just all notes that belong in the chord. Beautiful A flat minor chord, which is such a weird key too. So, okay guys, I never figured out how to get to the comments here. Aha. Maybe. There are comments. Yay, there you are. Oh, this is so nice. Hey, that makes it feel like I have a real audience. Thank you. I love live streams for one reason, which is that I can just sit here in my comfortable music studio with my tea. I'm told that I'm supposed to drink because it's happy hour, but I don't know how anybody drinks wine and sings at the same time. I have a cocktail waiting over there for when I'm done, so then I'll have a drink with you. But I love the convenience and the intimacy of getting to perform from my own home. And I don't know if audiences are always aware of this, but that's how Artsong started, right? Opera arias were meant to be performed in a big hall for a huge audience, and it was very formal, and you were in a costume and you were someone else. And the thing that's beautiful about Artsong is that you get to be yourself. You get to sing from your own perspective most of the time, and that it was meant to be performed in intimate spaces in somebody's big, beautiful living room for a group of friends, possibly slightly inebriated friends. So you can be my slightly inebriated friends right now, and welcome to my home. So that part is really lovely. And the other thing that's been really fun for me is that it has given me an excuse to self-accompany, which is a thing that lots of singers used to do all the time. And now it just seems bizarre to people, like, you can't play the piano and sing at the same time. Well, most of these songs were written to be experienced that way. Maybe not the ones that I'm doing right now tonight, because these are a little bit more complicated. But if you think about the Schubert songs or Mozart songs, they were written for people to enjoy in their own homes. Back before we had Spotify and iTunes Music and Amazon Music, and you couldn't say, Alexa, play the Beatles. If you wanted music, you had to make it most of the time, or you had to have nice friends who could make it. So I'm happy to be your real life music tonight. But the part that I don't love about it is the technology. You know, one of the reasons I like being an opera singer is because it's just right here, and you basically just show up and sing. It's so simple. And I'm also teaching online right now, and I'm the teacher who can't like figure out how to turn off the ads when I play a YouTube video, and now I'm supposed to teach everything online. It's a nightmare for me and my students. So I hope everything's going well. Your comments make me know that you are there and that you can see me, which is great. Okay, so we're going to move on and do some of the Bestiary poems set by Louis Duret, a member of Les Six and Poulenc's friend. I don't know if you can hear the beautiful birds outside my window right now. That's such a nice touch. I'm about to sing a bunch of stuff about birds. So I'm not going to do all of these. He set 26 of the 30, and I'm going to do about 10 for you, and they're all really short. Again, the poems are short, so the songs end up being short. So this one is called The Turtle, but it's not really about a turtle at all. It's about Orpheus and his lyre. So if you know your Greek myth, Orpheus was supposed to have a lyre that was made from the shell of a tortoise, and it was a gift from Mercury. So it's the beginning of the set, and it sets up Orpheus and his magical powers and the power of music. So the poem says, from Trace, "O delight, my sure fingers strum the lyre, and the animals process past to the sound of my tortoiseshell lyre, to the sound of my songs." So the tortoise. I love all those beautiful open fourths and fifths. It sounds like a harp to me. All right, the next one is called The Serpent, the Snake. And again, I don't know if I said this. I'm having a little moment where I'm not sure if I said this already, but these beautiful woodcuts that go with this are viewable in, yeah, I did say that. There's a link. So this one is so incredible. I wish I could really show it to you in a way that you could enjoy, but it's the woodcut is an enormous snake that's like twice as big as the woman. I'm kind of leaning over and glaring at her. So it says, the snake, you mercilessly pursue beauty, and women have been victims of your cruelty. Eve, Eurydice, Cleopatra. I myself know 3 or 4 others. A little humor and a lot of truth in that one. So here we go, The Serpent. Checking to see if you have comments there. All right. The next one is called The Cat. If I have any cat lovers out there, I think you will really like this one because he seems to really get cats. It has this lovely slinky melody, and it's in 5/4. So if you are a musician, you know that 5/4 is not a very common meter, and it makes us feel a little edgy. Like, where is the downbeat? It feels like there's a hiccup in there, and I think that's really beautifully expressive of the way that cats move. So the cat, the poem says, I would like to have in my house a sensible woman and a cat to walk around among the books, and friends in every season. Without these things, I can't live. So le chat. A bigger, scarier cat. This one is The Lion. Oh, lion, unhappy image of pitifully overturned kings. Now you're only born in cages in Hamburg among Germans. Apollinaire didn't like the Germans very much. So, as I mentioned a little at the beginning, traditionally, a bestiary had kind of Christian morals. They often would be stories about the behavior of Christ, and the animals were kind of a parable. And a lot of Apollinaires are political. Instead, he makes political parables, and some of them are romantic. So this one, Le Lapin, the rabbit, makes a little parallel between a shy rabbit and a woman who just needs a little bit of tenderness to unlock her. So the rabbit. I know another kind of rabbit, and I wish I could take her alive. Her warren is amid the thyme of the valleys in a land called tenderness. So the rabbit. I love all those kind of moody, evocative ones. It's so great. Okay, and the next one is called The Mouse. And this one is a beautiful little parable about the passage of time. And I think it has one of my favorite lines of French poetry from all my life as a singer. It says, Belle journée, souris du temps, vous rangez peu à peu ma vie. Beautiful days, the mice of time. Little by little, you nibble away my life. Isn't that a crazy, crazy image? And then the next line says, Dieu, je vais avoir 28 ans et mal vécu, à mon avis. It says, God, I'm about to be 28 years old and I've completely wasted my life exactly as I meant to. So, La Souris. I hope someone will tell me if the sound is okay. Will you tell me? It seems to be fine because people are commenting. I love that little song. Okay, and the next one, we're going from the smallest animal to the biggest, the elephant. And again, he draws a parable not about morals, but about the creative process. So he says, just as an elephant has his ivory, I have something truly precious in my mouth. Dignified death, I buy my glory at the price of my melodious words. So a little bit about what it costs a poet to get the thoughts out. And then this one, I promise you, I'm not playing a wrong note. Well, I am playing a wrong note, but I'm supposed to play a wrong note. So all these chords, the big lumbering steps of the elephant, have an F sharp and also an F natural. So you get this heavy feeling of the elephant walking. And now we have the flies. And I think this one needs a little explanation. You know, one of the fun things about being a singer is you have all this text and it comes from all over the world and it has history and mythology, and sometimes you learn crazy new stuff when you're prepping a song. So I thought, oh, it's a song about flies. And then I was reading it, I thought, gosh, I don't know what half of this means. So it says, our flies know songs that they learned in Norway, taught them by Ganik flies, which are the deities of the snow. And I thought, what the heck is it? A mush Ganik. And it turns out there's this myth about magical flies in Norway that can disguise themselves as snow, but follow the commands of their like master wizards and can hum around speaking magic words. What a crazy story. I never knew that existed. So if you're thinking, oh, this song about flies is just going to be buzzing flies, it is definitely not. It's way more interesting. It's also really, really hard to play. No pressure. I practiced this one a bit. I hope I don't mess it up. It's really fun, and it has cross hands, which if you play the piano, this is fun, but also challenging. You have to remember to uncross at the right time, or you get tied into a pretzel and you can't play anything. So wish me luck. All right, and then la puce. La puce is the flea. Aren't so many poets who thought it worthwhile to write poems about fleas? If you like John Donne, there is a really famous poem by John Donne about a flea where he tries to convince the woman that it's okay to sleep with him because the same flea has bit them. So they've practically had sex already. It's a very confusing poem. But that's super religious John Donne trying to justify sleeping with a lady. Try that on Tinder. I don't think that's going to work for anybody. But this one says, fleas, friends, even lovers, how cruel are the people who love us. All of our blood runs for them. The more beloved you are, the more unlucky you are. So here's the sound of the little flea bites too. Funny and possibly true. All right, and then le poulpe is the octopus. And you know, their zoological knowledge was maybe not so great 100 years ago. So there are some very funny things in some of these songs. And apparently they used to think that octopuses drank blood. They don't drink blood. Don't get your animal knowledge from French art song of the 1900s. It's not the place to go. But anyway, this poem says, flinging his ink toward the heavens, sucking blood from everything he loves and finding it delicious. This inhuman monster is me. The jellyfish. which happens to be called Méduse in French, which if it reminds you of Medusa, that's on purpose. It's like the snake hanging down from her head, right? That's the word they use for jellyfish. Oh, jellyfish, unfortunate creatures with heads of violet hair, you find your satisfaction in storms, and so do I. And then the Sirens. The Sirens are in the chapter on birds, which is funny until you remember that they're supposed to have wings, the myth of the Sirens. So it says, how should I know, Sirens, where your ennui comes from when you moan in the night from far off shores? Ocean, like you, I'm full of scheming voices, and my singing ships are called years. And this one has the coolest rhythm. I love this kind of murmury ocean sound. All right, and it's about time for a funny one, huh? There's a lot of introspective, heavy stuff there, but this one I think is hilarious. So the peacock, the paon, when he spreads his tail and walks around, this bird, whose plumage trails on the ground, seems more beautiful than ever, but he uncovers his rear end. Le paon. The owl. My poor heart is an owl. They nail it up, they take it down, they nail it up again. It's run out of blood and out of enthusiasm. I wish you well, everyone who loves me. Oh, All right, and the last one is le boeuf. Not beef, but a bull. Some of our food names come from the French names for the animals, right? So le boeuf is the ox. And it says this cherubim, it might seem strange to think of a bull as an angel, but there's in the Bible one kind of angel that's basically a winged bull, and sometimes it's also used as one of the symbols for the four evangelists. So this cherubim recites the praise of paradise, where close to the angels we'll all live again, my dear friends, when the good Lord allows. And it has, I think, the most perfect sound of bells, this one. So it has this kind of attack with a bounce, and it's a big open sonority. I just love the way this one sounds. So see if you can hear the bells. That's not too loud for my poor little iPhone. All right, that's all of Bestiary. I was going to do maybe one or two more other things, but gosh, it's already 5:45. So I'm just going to do one thing for you, and I think you will maybe know this one and like it. I thought I would play and sing Chanson de Bêtise, which is one of my all-time favorite things to perform. And they're damn sexy too, so that's maybe good for for happy hour. Now I'll have my gin and tonic while I do this one, because it kind of cries out for it. So just a quick word about the text for this one. It's such a funny thing. They are what we sometimes call a pseudo translation. So the author pretended he was the translator, and he said these texts were authentic ancient Greek text by some Greek woman named Bilitis, and that they described all of her lesbian amorous encounters. And he got away with talking about all this stuff because it was history, right? And he translated it. He hadn't written it, but of course he had written it. And then once people discovered it, they went, we still like them. And so they've been part of French literature all this time. And the reason they're on my art song recital is that they have always been illustrated for reasons you might imagine, but they have inspired people to illustrate them. So they were first published with a series of woodcuts, just like the Bestiary, and then they were re-illustrated over and over by about 15 or 16 different famous French artists. So if you're curious, you can look that up too. I put a link in the description, in the comments rather, to one of my favorite illustrated versions, which is by a painter named Georges Barbier. They're just everything that you love about 1920s era art. They're really lush and colorful, and these sinuous lines, and they're just amazing. They really fit the text. So the texts are sort of about a Greek girl having some Greek experiences, but sort of not, and you'll get it. So this one is called The Flute of Pan, La Flute of Pan, which is a panpipe, right? And it says, for Hyacinth's day, he gave me a panpipe made of carefully joined reeds, joined together with white wax that was sweet to my lips like honey. He taught me to play as I sat in his lap, but I was a little fearful, and so he played it after me, so softly that I could barely hear him. We have nothing to say to each other because we're so close to each other. But our songs try to speak to one another, and little by little, our mouths come together on the flute. It is late. Here's the song of the green frogs that begins at dusk. My mother will never believe that I stayed so long just to look for my lost sash. She's out past her curfew. So just a couple musical things. You can hear the panpipe in this. It's this beautiful, odd little scale. And then my other favorite thing about this is the frogs. So when she talks about the frogs, there's ribbiting, there's croaking in the piano. Isn't that beautiful? So you might look for those two things if you're listening for the sound of the flute and also the sound of the frogs. I love that one so much. Good thing about quarantine is I've had lots of time to play and sing. All right, the second one of the set is called La Chevelure, the hair. And this is another thing that maybe is a little hard for our modern minds to understand, but women's long hair used to be super sexualized, and part of the reason was that you never got to see it. It was always up. As soon as a girl hit puberty, she was expected to wear her hair up. So everybody knew that women's hair was extremely long, but they never got to see it. It was the super intimate thing. So this is a dialogue, a man relating a dream that he had where he got to see and touch the woman's hair, and then her hair was wrapped all around him. And he says, we were like two trees with the same roots. It's a dream about intimacy. It's a very thinly veiled metaphor for intimacy. And it has all these strange kind of noodling dissonant chords as he tries to express this in words that get across this that vague feeling that you get from a dream where it's so hard to relate it when you wake up. So it says, he said to me, last night I had a dream. I dreamed I had your hair around my neck. I had your hair like a black collar wrapped around my neck and down on my chest. I caressed it, and it was mine, and we were bound together forever like that, by the same hair, with our mouths on each other, like two laurels often have only one root. And little by little, it seemed to me, our limbs entwined so much that I became you, or you became me, like a dream. When he had finished, he gently placed his hands on my shoulders, and he looked at me with a look so tender that I lowered my eyes with a shudder. La chevelure.
Des cheveux comme un collier noir autour de mon nuque et sur mon poitrine. Je l'ai caressé, c'était bien, et nous étions libres toujours assis par la même chevelure bouche à bouche. Ainsi que de l'oreiller, non souvent qu'une racine. Et un peu, il m'a semblé que nos membres étaient confondus, que je devenais ton même. Oh, que tu entres en moi, mon songe. Quand il t'achevait, il mit doucement ses mains sur mes épaules. Il me regarda d'un regard si tendre que je baissai les yeux avec un frisson.
I love those last three little chords. Because to me, it sounds like a little breath and hesitation, like she's not sure what to say next or how to respond. This is a really intense poem. All right, the last one, Le Tombeau de Naiad, the tomb of the Naiads. You know, these three poems are excerpted from, I think there's something like 140 poems in the actual whole thing, the Chanson de Bilitis. And I think Debussy did a really great job of choosing three that kind of tell a story. It kind of moves through her first sexual experiences where she's really rattled just by sitting on his lap and kissing him. And then it goes into this dream that's really intimate. And then this last one is about, well, it's usually in poetry when you have the metaphor of winter and things being frozen, etc. It's that things have died emotionally. And so she's in a different place. She's looking for the joy and the ecstasy and the sexuality of her youth. And she's walking through this frozen woods with this unnamed guide. She's looking for the tomb of the Naiads and the footsteps of Pan. And he says, all that ended years and years ago. And it has this incredible endless walking music that's dissonant, and it sounds cold. I don't know how music can sound cold, but this one sounds cold. So here we go. Oh, no, I didn't read it for you. I need to read it for you. Okay. Le Tombeau de Naïade. Through the woods, covered with frost, I walked along. My hair across my mouth bloomed with little icicles, and my sandals were heavy with mud and caked snow. He spoke to me. What are you looking for? I'm following the tracks of the satyr. His little cloven footprints are traced out like holes in a white cloak. He said to me, they're all dead. The satyrs and the nymphs as well. For 30 years there has not been such a terrible winter. The tracks that you see are those of a goat. But let us stay here where their tomb is. And with the blade of his hoe he broke the ice over the spring where the naiads in years past used to laugh. He took up large cold pieces of ice, and holding them up to the pale sky, he looked through them. I've been lucky enough to sing those many, many times, and every time I sing them, I find something new and beautiful. It's been wild to love in the harmonies or some new thing about the text. And if you can, you want to see the page? So Debussy loves to write really complicated looking rhythms. And if you don't know any French, it's like, oh my God, why are there so many big triplets? So, triplets over 2 beats and groups of 5 and 7. But what he actually does is he takes the text and he writes exactly the rhythm that you would use if you spoke the text naturally. And there's so much care there. There's so much love for the poetry. And his audiences would have known the images too. So part of what I think is fun about all the songs that I did for you today is that the poems and the music accompany the art. It's like the art and the poems are illustrating the visual art instead of the other way around. And what a beautiful idea, right? There's so much overlap in aesthetics between visual art and poetry and music. And we don't always think about that, but it's there and it's real. You know, if you've ever called Debussy an impressionist, you should know he didn't like that at all. But he did have a lot of aesthetic goals in common with visual artists of his day and with symbolist poets. And so there's this kind of vagueness to everything that's like painted with a soft brush that is part of what makes it so evocative. Well, guys, I was not very good at checking my comments because I'm an old lady and I'm not good at technology. So I look forward to reading all those after I get off here. And it was great to see them popping up because then I know that somebody was there and I'm not just singing into the void. But I do want to say again that I'm so thankful that I got to do this. Thank you, Artslandia, for hosting me on your happy hour. And I want to plug the next concert. So tomorrow night is an evening with violinist and accordionist from Three Leg Torso. This is a group that I actually really love, and they play the neatest, coolest stuff. So please, you really want to catch that. Bella and Courtney playing violin and accordion. And they're doing some of their own original songs and also a lot of really cool music from all around the world. So catch that tomorrow at 5 if you can. And thank you again, Artslandia, and hope you enjoyed some of that. If you didn't get a chance to look at it while I was singing, look for those links and go look at the beautiful images. And if you're curious about Duré, I think he's a composer that's unjustly overlooked. So maybe go listen to a few more of his songs. Thanks, everybody. Have a lovely night. And now I get